What's up, folks? Welcome to Math Walkthroughs with Mr. Weeb. Today we are representing linear patterns concretely. This is our Lesson 1 action task. Let's see what it's asking us to do. It says Nima wants to use between 150 and 200 square tiles to represent the first 10 terms of a pattern that grows by the same amount each time. Nima predicts that the sixth term will use fewer than 40 square tiles. How do you think she made this prediction? Well, first, we need to define our terms. So, what is a term? This is what she's talking about. So let's say Nima has, here are the first 3 stages of her pattern. Let's say she starts fairly simple. She has 2, she adds 2 more, she adds 2 more. But we can see we're quickly running out of room, and honestly, this would take a very long time to go all the way to 10. So what we can do instead is make a table of values. This is an important tool when we're talking about patterns. In a table of values, you put the term number here on the left, and you put the term value over here on the right. So we can list 1 to 10 on the left and write the values for each on the right. So for instance, in the first case, we have 2. In the second term, we have 4. And in the third case, we have 6, and we can see the pattern growing by 2 each time. And we're just counting by 2s. 14, 16, 18, 20. There we go. Now, if we look at this and we add up all of these tiles, this is what it's saying here. She wants to use between 150 and 200 square tiles in the first 10 terms. So we would have to add this term and this term and this term and this term. And if we added them all up, let's say we just took this, added them all up, we would get 110. Okay? So that's not quite what she wants. She wants between 150 and 200 in the first 10 terms. So she's predicting that by the 6th term, this is the 6th term here, that this number will be less than or fewer than 40 square tiles. How does she know that? Well, we might make another table of values, and we can make it on its side like this. Now, Nima doesn't say anything about what might be in the first 5 terms, but she does say that she thinks that the 6th term will be less than 40, and here's why. If the 6th term is 40, that means 7th term is going to be 40 and a little bit more, and the 8th term is going to be even more than that, and the 9th term is going to be even more, and the 10th term, well, you get the idea. It just keeps going. So what do we know about that? We know that 40 happens, at least 40 happens 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And 5 groups of 40 is going to be 200. Well, already, if we look at this, 200 is too many square tiles, and this pattern is definitely going to be more than 200 square tiles. So to answer the question, I might say something like this. Nima knows there will be more than 200 tiles in the last 5 terms alone. Then it asks us to describe a possible pattern that Nima could use. Well, to do that, I might look at what we've already done over in this area. We had a pattern that added up to 110. That means in order to get to 150, I would just need to add 40 more tiles. Well, I know that I have 10 terms, and if I added 4 to each of them, if I added 4 to this and 4 to this and 4 to this, I know 4 times 10 is 40. So if I could just add 4 to each, would I still have a pattern that increases by the same amount each time? I think I would. Here we have our new term value. If this was the case, it would be 6, then 8, then 10, then 12, and I could keep going. And all I would need to do is then add them all up and see if I got 150. So let's do that now. So I added them all up, and indeed it is true that we do have 150, and we still have a pattern that increases by a constant amount. It's increasing by the same amount each time, by 2. So the pattern that we could use is this. If you start at 6 and add 2 tiles each time, Nima will use 150 tiles. Question C says, show that your pattern uses between 150 and 200 square tiles. And I might show that like this. Here's my table of values, and I would show that this, the sum of all of the term values, is 150. The last part of question 1 says, state the pattern rule for your pattern and predict the 20th term. All right, so the pattern rule would go like this. Start at 6 and add 2 tiles each time. As for predicting the 20th term, we could go back to our table of values and see what's in the 11th and the 12th and the 13th, but we run out of room and it takes a long time. I want to show you that there's an easier way to do this. First, in order to do that, I want to show you how to predict. First, I'm going to predict that 24 is the value of the 10th term. And I know we already know the value of the 10th term, but stay with me. If the first term is worth 6, I know that to get to the next term, we are just adding 2, right? To go here, we're adding 2, we're adding 2, we continue adding 2 all the way up the line. And I hope that we can see that when we're adding a bunch of times in a row, that we don't need to do a bunch of adding. We can make it easier on ourselves by multiplying instead. How many times have we taken that 2 steps? Well, between 1 and 10, we've taken the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. So we've done 9 groups of 2, but that doesn't quite take us all the way to 24. That takes us to 18. What I want to show you is that you have to not forget about what you started with. You started with 6, so we have to add the 6. Does that take us to 24? Let's see. This equals 18 plus 6, which will give us 24. 18 plus 6 will give us 24, which is exactly what we were looking for. So when we're predicting the 20th term, how many times have we taken a step of 2? We've taken it 10 more times in order to get from 10 to 20. So if we took 9 steps here plus 10 more, that would be 19 groups of 2, plus the 6 that we started with. And that will be 19 times 2, we can do this in our head. 2 times 20 is 40, but 1 less group of 2 would be 38, plus another 6, that would be 44. And that should be our answer. The 20th term is 44. Let's move on to question 2. It says, use square tiles or shapes outlined on grid paper to show the first few terms of your pattern from question 1. Make it easy to see how the pattern grows. Okay, let's get some grid paper. Now that we've got our grid paper, we can make our shapes. So here's our grid paper, and we can make our first shape be 6, and then our second term be 8, and our third term is going to be 10, and we should also label that these are our first, second, and third terms, and our 10th term should be right here, and we know that our 10th term has to be 24. So there we go. We've got 24. Our first term value is 6. Our second term value is 8. And our third term value is 10. And 10th is 24. Let's see what the next question asks us to do. It says, show what the 10th term would look like. We've got that. And then it says, describe a situation that would lead to one of your patterns. A situation could be this. For 6, 8, 10, 12, it could be that you start with 3 people in a room and you are counting shoes as more and more people enter the room. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.